The dirty alley behind Dock 9. Rain fell hard over the steel roofs of Outpost. Colony 19. Jaron pulled his coat tighter as he walked down the empty service path behind. Dock 9. Cargo crates were stacked high on both sides. The wind smelled like oil and rust. Lights flickered. No one ever came here at night. It was where trash was thrown, and sometimes people too. Then he heard something. It wasn't a machine or a rat. It was a soft sound. A voice. Weak. He stopped and looked around. In the shadows near a broken crate, he saw her. At first, Jaron thought it was a dying animal. But when he stepped closer, he saw a girl, an alien girl. She sat on her knees, soaked in rain, her silver-purple skin covered in dirt and bruises. Her arms were thin like sticks. Her long hair clung to her face. She looked up at him with glowing eyes, half empty, half scared. Then she did something that froze him. She reached out her shaking hands and whispered, "Do you want me?" Jaron blinked, shocked. "What?" She dropped her head and said again, "You can have me, just give me food." Jaron's heart twisted. She wasn't even trying to lie or charm him. This wasn't a trick. She was serious. She was starving and offering her body to survive. He crouched slowly. "Hey, I'm not here for that." The girl flinched but didn't run. Jaron opened his coat pocket and pulled out a protein bar. It wasn't much, just something he kept for late shifts. He unwrapped it and held it out. She stared at it, eyes wide. "Here," he said. "Eat." She hesitated. Then she took it carefully like it might vanish. Her hands were trembling. She bit into it like an animal, fast, messy. She coughed but kept eating. Crumbs fell into her lap. Jaron watched her and said softly, "What's your name?" The girl didn't answer. He took off his coat and placed it around her small shoulders. She flinched again but didn't stop him. She looked down at the fabric. "Like it was magic. You shouldn't be here," Jaron said, looking around. "Someone might—" A loud shout echoed nearby. He turned fast. But it was just a worker across the yard, not looking their way. When he turned back, the girl was gone. He stood and looked around, heart racing. Then he spotted her already slipping into the darkness like a shadow. "Wait," he said, but she was gone. That night, Jaron went home to his small unit. He couldn't stop thinking about her, her eyes, her voice. That hopeless whisper. He made tea but didn't drink it. She must be dead by morning, he thought. There was no shelter, no food. If the rats didn't get her, the cold would. He felt sick. Next morning, when Jaron opened his front door, he froze. She was there, curled up on his doorstep like a lost animal. Covered in his wet coat, breathing softly, she hadn't left. She had followed him. He stared at her for a long second. Then he whispered, "What are you doing here?" She didn't wake. She was too weak. Jaron sighed and opened the door wider. He picked her up gently. She was lighter than he expected, like holding air. She didn't resist. Inside, he placed her on the old couch, turned on the heat, got a blanket, boiled some water. The alien girl slowly opened her eyes. "You brought me here?" she asked, voice dry. "Yes," Jaron said. "You'd have died outside." She sat up slowly. "Are you going to use me now?" Jaron's face turned cold. "No, I'm not like that." She looked confused. He walked to the kitchen and brought back a bowl of instant noodles. "Eat this, then we'll talk." She took it with both hands, smelled it, then started eating like she hadn't seen real food in days. Jaron sat nearby, watching her. After a while, he said, "You didn't tell me your name." She paused, looked down. "Vera," she said at last. "Is that your real name?" She didn't answer. Jaron didn't push. He just nodded. "Okay, Vera, you can stay for now. Just don't run again." She looked at him, surprised. Then, for the first time, she said in a small voice, "Thank you." He nodded and stood. "Rest. We'll figure this out tomorrow." But even as he said that, he had no idea what he'd just gotten into. or how that starving girl on his doorstep would soon change everything in his life. Forever. Jaren didn't sleep much that night, even though the alien girl Vera was lying on his couch, warm and fed. He couldn't stop thinking, who was she? Really? Where had she come from? Why had she offered herself like that, as if her life meant nothing? He watched her for hours. She slept like someone who hadn't rested in years. Curled up under the blanket, holding the bowl of noodles like it might be taken from her. When morning came, Jaren stepped into the kitchen quietly. He made coffee, then stood at the window, staring at the dusty streets outside. His world had changed overnight. Yesterday, he was just a low-rank cargo tech. Today, he was hiding a lost alien girl in his home, someone who might be hunted. Then he heard her voice behind him. "Do you live here alone?" He turned. Vera stood near the wall, wrapped in the blanket, barefoot. Her silver skin looked cleaner now, but her arms were still thin. Her big, glowing eyes looked around the room like it was another planet. "Yeah," Jaren said. "Just me." She looked at the floor. "You're not scared of me?" "No," he said. "Should I be?" She didn't answer. Instead, she touched the table gently. "I've never been inside a home before." Jaren blinked. "What do you mean?" "I was kept in a cage most of my life," she said simply. "Metal bars, hard floor, lights always on. No names, just numbers." His chest tightened. "You escaped?" "I wasn't supposed to," she said. "I just ran. I thought I would die in that alley. But then you gave me food." She looked at him now with something different in her eyes, not fear, but wonder. "Why did you do that?" Jaren hesitated. "Because you needed help. No one ever helps," she whispered. "Especially not humans." He raised an eyebrow. "You've met many?" She shook her head. "But the guards said humans are dangerous, cold, always looking to take." Jaren sighed. "Well, they're not wrong about some. But not all of us." Vera tilted her head. "You're different." He turned away, trying not to let that land too deep in his heart. "You should rest more. Your body's still weak." But she didn't lie down. Instead, she walked slowly around the small room, touching things with soft curiosity, his book stack, a cracked photo on the shelf, even a small indoor plant that barely clung to life. Then she said something strange. "Is this what freedom feels like?" Jaren turned to her. "You've never been free?" She looked at him and smiled for the first time, small, fragile. "Not until now." Suddenly Jaren felt something shift. He wasn't just helping a poor girl anymore. He was part of something bigger. Later that day, Jaren went to the supply market. He needed food, medical cream, and maybe extra clothes, something simple for her to wear. He kept his head low. The market was always full of traders, smugglers, and information sellers. If someone recognized Vera or heard about her, trouble would come. As he passed by a vendor selling data chips, he overheard something. "Yeah, a girl escaped. Real rare kind. Silver skin, long hair, glows in the dark. Owners offering 10,000 credits for her return, dead or alive." Jaren's heart skipped. That was her. No doubt. He left quickly without buying anything. Back at home, Vera was sitting on the couch, watching the small wall screen. She looked up when he entered, and her eyes read his face. "You saw something," she said. "People are looking for you," he replied quietly. "They want to take you back." She hugged the blanket tighter. "I knew it. You can't go outside again. Not alone." "I won't," she said, then paused. "Will you give me to them?" Jaren looked her in the eyes. "No, never." Something warm filled the silence between them. Not romance. Not yet, but trust, new and real. That night, she asked a question before sleep. "Why do you keep helping me?" Jaren leaned on the doorway, arms crossed. "Because I see you." She blinked. "See me?" "Not just what you are, but who you are," he said. You're more than what they did to you." Vera stared at him like no one had ever said those words before. She lay down and whispered, "I don't want to be sold ever again." "You won't be," Jaron promised. "Not while I'm breathing." And as she drifted to sleep, she smiled. Again this time, just a little wider dot. She had nothing. But somehow here, she felt safe. Vera opened her eyes before the sun touched the dusty glass. She sat up slowly on Jaron's couch, wrapped in the same old blanket. The warmth was new to her. So was the silence. No buzzing lights, no shouting voices. No cold floor under her body. Just quiet. Safe. But something in her chest felt heavy. Like the peace could disappear at any second. In the small kitchen, Jaron stood by the heater unit, stirring instant breakfast. The scent of fake eggs filled the room. "You always get up this early?" he asked, glancing at her. "I don't sleep much," Vera said. "You slept fine last night." "I kept one eye open," Jaron chuckled softly. "Old habit?" "Old survival," she said. They didn't talk much after that. Vera ate in silence, sitting cross-legged on the floor. She used a spoon now. Jaron had shown her gently how to hold it yesterday, and she hadn't forgotten. Her hands still trembled sometimes, but her grip was better. Then a knock came at the door. A hard knock. Vera's spoon froze midair. Her body stiffened like ice. Jaron held up a hand. "Stay here." He moved toward the door and peeked through. The slot. A man stood there, bald, wide shoulders, black coat. Not from the colony. He looked like someone who asked questions and made people disappear. Jaron opened the door just a crack. "Yeah? You seen anything strange in this sector?" the man asked, voice low. "Strange?" Jaron repeated. "Female, alien, silver skin, maybe wounded. Might have passed through here 2 days ago." Jaron shook his head slowly. "Can't say I have." The man stared at him for a few seconds too long, then handed him a small metal card. "Call if you do. There's a reward." Jaron took the card. "Right." The man walked away, boots thudding heavy on the ground. Jaron shut the door and locked it tight. Vera was already hiding in the kitchen corner behind the counter. She was shaking. "Was it them?" She whispered. "Someone looking for you," Jaron said quietly. "Not sure who." Vera looked down. He had the same voice as the men who bought me. Calm, cold. Jaron put the metal card in the sink and crushed it under a mug. "You're not going back," he said, "but they'll come again. Then we'll be ready." That evening, Jaron took Vera through the back alleys to an old friend's place, a retired tech surgeon named Laura who owed him favors. Laura lived in a hidden unit behind a scrap shop. She was small, sharp-eyed, and smoked tiny herbs that made the room smell like pepper. "Jaron, I don't fix runaways," she said when he explained. "She's not a runaway," he said. "She's a prisoner, and she has a control implant." Laura raised an eyebrow. "How deep?" "Near the spine," Vera said quietly. Laura looked at her for the first time. Saw the bruises, the caution in her eyes. "Sit down," she said. Vera climbed onto the old metal table. Laura scanned her back with a hand device. The screen blinked red. "Yep, you've got one of the older collars. These send pain signals if she disobeys. Can you remove it?" Jaron asked. Laura hesitated. "Maybe, but it's tricky. If I make a mistake, it could paralyze her." "I don't care," Vera said. Both of them looked at her. "If I can't live free, I don't want to live at all." Laura nodded slowly. "All right, tomorrow night. I'll prep my tools." They returned home quietly. On the way, Jaron noticed someone following them, but when he turned, there was no one there. Vera stayed close to his side the whole walk back. Late that night, while Jaron checked the doors and windows again, Vera sat on the floor near the heater, hugging her knees. "You think they'll find us?" she asked. "I don't know," Jaron said honestly. "But I'm not letting them take you." You don't even know me, she whispered. Why are you doing this? He sat down beside her, tired. Because when I saw you in that alley, he said, I saw someone trying to survive, not begging. Not tricking, just trying. I couldn't walk away. Vera looked at him, eyes softer now. I never asked anyone for help before, she said. I thought no one would care. I care. She reached out slowly, almost afraid, and touched his hand. Just a small touch. Like testing if he was real. Thank you, she whispered. For the first time, Jaron didn't see a victim. He saw a girl who still had fight left in her. And maybe something even more. The next night felt colder than usual. Jaron looked at Vera as she sat quietly on the edge of his bed, her eyes locked on the small mirror. Her reflection showed a girl who didn't recognize herself, clean skin, new clothes, and a blanket on her lap, but her eyes, they still held something broken. He walked over and knelt beside her. Laura's ready, he said. We can go now. Are you sure? Vera didn't blink. If we wait longer, they'll find me. I can feel it. She pulled up the back of her shirt and showed the scar at her upper spine. It was small, but deep, and dark lines of metal could be seen just under the skin. That thing, she said quietly, hurts me when I speak my mind, when I don't follow orders. Even when I cry. Jaron's jaw clenched. It won't hurt you anymore. I promise. They left quietly, using the back stairs. Jaron kept her close, watching every corner, every shadow. The city was alive with movement, mechanical cleaners, delivery drones, tired workers heading home. No one noticed them, but he couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching from the dark. When they reached the scrap shop, Laura opened the door without a word. Inside, the lights were dim, machines humming quietly. You ready, kid? Laura asked Vera. The girl nodded without emotion. She had already accepted pain. Whatever came next, she would face it. Jaron stood by her side as she lay on the table. Her hands gripped the cold metal surface. Laura put on gloves and powered up her surgical tools. The scanner beeped softly. This collar's old tech, built for obedience, disguised as a spinal tracker. Looks like it was activated many times recently. Vera nodded slowly. Every time I said no, it burned. Laura frowned. Disgusting. The old woman moved quickly but carefully, slicing just below the skin. Vera didn't cry. She didn't even wince. She just stared at the ceiling. Jaron couldn't look away. The thought of someone putting that device in her, living being like she was a machine, it made his blood boil. After 20 minutes, Laura exhaled sharply. Got it. She pulled out a small black chip with silver wiring. It twitched slightly, then blinked red before dying in her hand. It's out, she said. She's free. Vera sat up slowly, her body weak but her face full of something Jaron hadn't seen before. Relief. Real. Full relief. It's gone? She whispered. Gone, Laura said. Vera reached back and touched the stitched spot on her neck. Then her hands fell to her lap. She didn't speak for a while. Laura packed up her tools and walked away to give them space. Jaron sat beside Vera. You okay? She looked at him. And for the first time since he met her, her eyes filled with tears, not of pain, but of something else. Thank you, she whispered. Then she surprised him. She leaned forward and hugged him. Her arms were thin, her skin still cold, but her hug was real. She held onto him like he was her anchor in a world that had only ever pushed her away. Jaron closed his eyes. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was healing. But not far away. Danger was already moving. At a dark table inside the colonies. Private enforcement building. A man in a black coat stared at a screen. A photo of Vera taken from an old file flashed in red. Below it, a location ping showed brief movement near the scrapyard. Someone had turned on medical scanners. Just for a moment. The man smiled. She's close. He picked up his cum. Prepare the capture unit. I want her alive. Back at Jaren's home, Vera stood at the window for the first time. She looked out over the streets, people moving, hover bikes flying past, lights flickering and shop signs. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was on the outside. She was part of the world now, not property. Not prey, a person. Jaren handed her a mug of warm tea. She took it carefully, sipped, winced. "It's hot." "Yeah," Jaren said, smiling. "You'll get used to it." She smiled back, tired but alive. They didn't know the storm was coming, but in that small moment, inside that quiet room, a girl who once lived in a cage was finally free, and Jaren didn't know he would soon risk everything to keep her that way. It had been 3 days since the collar was removed. Vera still touched the back of her neck every now and then, just to be sure it was really gone. No more shocks. No more invisible pain. The silence inside her body was strange, peaceful. But strange. Jaren had taken time off work to stay close. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He said he didn't trust the streets, not with bounty hunters sniffing around and scanners lighting up on nearby blocks. So they stayed hidden, safe, but Vera couldn't sit still. "I want to do something," she said one morning. Jaren looked up from the small table where he was checking supply prices on his datapad. "Like what?" "I want to cook." He blinked. "You've never done that, have you?" She shook her head. "But I watched them. The workers. They always prepared food for the guards." Jaren hesitated. "Okay, but don't burn the place down." Vera smiled faintly. It was a real smile, and it stopped Jaren cold. He realized it was the first time he had seen her face glow like that. Not out of fear, not out of pain, but because she was proud, happy even. She moved to the counter like it was a mission. She fumbled with the cabinets, opened every drawer, sniffed each spice bottle like a curious child. Jaren watched her, half worried and half amused. The meal she cooked was a mess. She boiled noodles too long, added too much salt, used sour food instead of onions. When Jaren took the first bite, he nearly coughed it back out, but he smiled anyway. "This is very creative." Vera tilted her head. "Bad?" He grinned. "It's perfect." She smiled again, and this time it reached her eyes. Jaren didn't realize how much that moment meant until later. Not the meal, not the mess, but her trying. Her claiming a little piece of normal life and making it hers. She didn't feel like a stranger anymore. She felt like someone who belonged. That night, they sat near the window, both drinking cheap warm tea. The stars outside were blurry through the colony's dome glass. Ships came and went, blinking lights in the dark. "Do you miss anyone?" Jaren asked. Vera took a while to answer. "There were others. Like me, some younger, some too broken to move. We weren't allowed to talk much, but I remember their faces." "You think any of them made it out?" "I hope so," she said. But hope was forbidden. Jaren nodded slowly. He leaned back in his chair. "You know, when I found you, I thought you were about to die." "I was," she said softly, "until you gave me food. Then I didn't want to die anymore." He looked at her. "That's all it took?" She smiled once more. "Kindness is rare, Jaren. It changes everything." He didn't know what to say. Her words sat heavy in the room, like truth. Then Vera stood up. "Can I ask something strange?" "Sure. Can I sleep near you tonight?" Jaren raised an eyebrow. "Not for what you think," she added quickly. "I just feel safer when you're close." He nodded, understanding. "Of course." She slept curled under a blanket on a mat near his bed. Jaren stayed awake longer, just watching her breathing slow, but miles away, in a tall tower near the border walls. The man in the black coat stood before a hologram. It showed Vera's face matched perfectly with the bounty system. "She's alive," he said to his cum. "I'm sure of it," a distorted voice replied. "Bring her back." "No marks, she's still valuable." The man's eyes narrowed. "Consider it done." The next morning, Jaron opened the door to get the delivery box. His heart stopped. A symbol was burned into the wall beside his unit, an X, inside a circle, simple, clean, deadly. He closed the door fast and locked it twice. What is it? Vera asked from the back. Pack your things, he said. We're leaving. She froze. They found us? Not yet, Jaron said. But they're close, too close. He opened a hidden drawer and pulled out a small ID chip. It wasn't his, it was one he'd bought years ago on the black market. Fake name, fake background. Just in case. Vera stood beside him now, quiet but alert. Where will we go? Out of the colony, he said. Far from the scanners. Maybe a farming sector, maybe underground. I'll figure it out, Jaron. He turned to her. I'll go wherever you go, she said. He nodded. And even in that fear, that danger, they shared one look, one silent promise. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. Asterisk smoke drifted across Sector 12. It was dark, and the air carried a strange tension, like something was about to snap. Jaron moved through the back alleys with Vera right behind him. She wore a dark hood and moved quietly, her steps lighter than ever before. No collar, no fear, just focus. They had no time left. They marked our home, Jaron whispered. If we don't erase the source, they'll chase us forever. Vera didn't ask questions. She already knew where he was going. The auction house, where she'd been sold. Where others like her were still being locked in cages. The place looked like any other old warehouse from the outside. No signs, no windows. Just silent guards and black vehicles nearby. But Vera knew what was inside. Pain, suffering, chains. Jaron crouched behind a low wall and opened his old gear pack. He pulled out a set of small explosives, illegal tech he never thought he'd use. Vera touched his arm. Why are you doing this? He looked at her. Because it's not just about saving you anymore. It's about ending this. She looked away. Her hands trembled, but not from fear. From anger. I was 10 when they brought me here, she said quietly. There were dozens of us. They stripped our names. Called us units. They made us forget we were people. Jaron clenched his jaw. They'll never do that again. They moved in silence. Jaron slipped through the weak spot in the side fence. Vera followed, eyes sharp, remembering every step, every door. She knew the layout. She remembered the rooms. They placed the charges carefully, one near the back wall, one under the intake bay, and another in the lower hall where the showroom used to be. Then Vera stopped. She stared at a small door. That's where I was kept, she said. Jaron looked. A keypad locked the chamber. He pressed a few wires together, and the lock clicked open. The door creaked slowly. Inside were 5 small cells, cold, empty. But the marks were still there, scratches on the walls. Names carved in secret, a torn doll in the corner. Vera stepped inside, touched the wall gently. Her name was Sila, she whispered. She cried every night. Jaron lowered his eyes. We should go. But Vera didn't move. She walked to the center of the room and bent down. She pulled something out from beneath the metal bed. A small silver charm. Broken in half, she slid it into her pocket. I'm ready now, she said. They left through the same hole in the fence. At a safe distance, Jaron handed her the remote trigger. This is yours, he said. You decide. Vera stared at it. So small, so powerful. She pressed the button. The explosion was silent at first, just a flicker of fire across the horizon. Then the second wave hit, blasting through the roof, the back walls crumbling, heat rising into the sky. The guards had no time to react. Sirens blared across the city, but Jaron and Vera were already running. They hid inside an abandoned cargo tunnel beneath the colony. Jaron checked the map for hours before the patrol bots would scan the area. Vera sat across from him, her hands stained with dust, her face blank. "You okay?" he asked. She looked up. "I burned the place where I lost everything." "You didn't lose," Jaren said softly. "You survived." She stared at him, her eyes deep with something heavy. "I thought revenge would make me feel full," she said. "But all I feel is tired." Jaren nodded. "That's normal. I don't want to fight forever." "You won't have to," he said. "Not if we get out." She leaned back against the wall, letting her head rest. "Where will we go now?" she asked. "There's a refugee zone past the river sector. Not legal, but safe. No scans, no IDs." Vera closed her eyes. "Will they follow us?" "Maybe," Jaren said honestly. "But you're not alone anymore." She opened her eyes again. "Neither are you." He smiled, even in the dark. Her strength had grown. So had his reason to protect her. She wasn't the girl from the alley anymore. She was someone who had taken back her name, her voice, her fire, and she'd burned her past to ash. The rain had returned to Outpost Colony 19, but this time it was quiet rain, gentle, not cold. Jaren and Vera walked through the empty train tunnel that led away from the central city. Their boots splashed in shallow puddles. The smell of ash still hung in the air behind them, faint, like the memory of something terrible finally buried. No alarms chased them, now. No bounty hunters. No flashing lights. The fire from the auction house had wiped the registry. All data gone. The system had no more record of Unit 32 or Vera of Sector 12. She was truly gone. And truly free. But freedom, Vera was learning, didn't come with instructions. Jaren led her to a small, unused worker's cabin near the river wall. A place he'd known about for years, but never needed until now. It was old but standing. No cameras, no trackers. Just a roof, a heater, and a locked door. Inside, they sat down. No words for a while. Vera stared out the foggy window. Her voice broke the silence. "What now?" Jaren looked at her. "Now we rest, you heal. We find a way to live without running." She turned to him slowly. "I don't even know what living means." "You'll figure it out," he said. "You've already come this far." Vera smiled faintly, but it faded. Her voice lowered. "You could have left me, you know." "I know." "You could have taken the reward." "I know, but you didn't." He nodded once. "Why?" Jaren leaned forward, elbows on knees, thinking carefully. Then he answered, soft and simple. "Because when I met you, I saw someone everyone else ignored. Someone who still had light left, even when she thought she didn't. You weren't weak. You were just waiting for someone to see you." Vera's throat tightened. No one had ever said something like that to her. No one had ever looked at her and seen more than what she could offer. Tears touched her eyes. She wiped them away quickly. "I don't know what I am to you," she whispered. "A burden? A mission? A broken thing?" Jaren stood up, crossed the small space between them, and knelt in front of her. "You're not a mission," he said. "You're not broken, and you're definitely not a burden." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers touched hers, gently. "You're someone I care about, deeply." She closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of his hand. When she opened them, her voice was soft, almost scared. "Can I stay with you?" Jaren smiled. "For as long as you want." She let out a breath she hadn't even known she was holding. Then quietly, without force or fear, she leaned forward and rested her forehead on his shoulder. His arms wrapped around her. Not tightly. Just enough to say, "You are safe now." And for the first time in her life, she believed it. Weeks passed. Vera learned how to plant food in boxes. She fixed the cabin's old water line. She even smiled more. It wasn't always easy. Some nights she still woke up shaking. Some days, Jaren found her sitting alone, lost in memories, but every time he sat beside her, he never asked her to forget. He only stayed. That meant more than anything. One day, while checking the perimeter sensors, Jaren returned to find something surprising. Vera had decorated the cabin's small table with wildflowers from the river. A poor bouquet, crooked and clumsy, but to him, it was more beautiful than anything he'd seen in all the colonies. "What's this?" he asked. Vera looked shy. "I saw them and thought, maybe it would make the room less gray." Jaren chuckled. It worked. He picked one and tucked it behind her ear. She froze. "You like it?" he asked. Her eyes glowed softly. "No one's ever done that to me before." He tilted his head. "Then they were all fools." She blushed, and for once she didn't hide her face. Later that night, as they sat near the warm heater, Vera looked at the stars through the open skylight. "Do you ever think about the future?" she asked. "Sometimes." "What do you see?" He turned to her. "You," she smiled. "Do you see children?" Jaren blinked. I hadn't thought that far." Vera looked down. "I do." He sat still, then gently said, "You'd be a good mother." She smiled without hesitation. "And you'd be a better father." They laughed together, not because it was a joke, but because it felt real. For once, the galaxy didn't feel so cold. They had no riches, no titles, no guarantees. Just a human and an alien girl who once offered her body for food, now holding hands beside a heater, dreaming about a future neither of them believed they deserved, and finally wanting it anyway. Together.